they tell her I'm here. I'm here. I think she know that I'm here. I'm here. But if she don't go and tell her I'm here. I'm here. Laps. We start young, we grow old. Them the lights cut the mic by the middle of the night. And these lights to my soul. Cause as long as the light shine bright, I'll stay young, won't get old. To my soul. As long as the light shine bright. As long as the night.
I brought you here to ask a very serious question. And the question is insanity the new sanity?
Oh man, is insanity the new sanity? Well, kind of, sort of.
I look around and I'm thinking about all of the people who connect to mental illness.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And now you hear the words very often, and you can hear the majority of people that you come in contact with relating on some level.
Relating to insanity?
Yes,
okay.
relating to mental illness,
yeah,
right?
Okay.
On some level, on any level. You know, some is just anxiety, and it goes up from there, right?
Absolutely.
So, you know, when people start talking insanity, they're talking mental illness, right? I wouldn't say that everybody who deals with mental illness is insane, but, you know, that's the conversation. So often I wonder, I ask myself, now that this is a norm, like the majority of people are dealing with it.
Absolutely.
Right? If we base sanity or insanity and off of what happens outside of the majority, now that it's the majority, what does that mean?
Right. Absolutely. It's the norm. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so what does that mean for us in the future?
I mean, ultimately, I think what that means for us is we gotta take care of our mental health. You know what I'm saying? We gotta have conversations like this where it's open dialogue and we can talk about, well, what does this even mean? Like in the US alone, I think like half the population is struggling with either depression or anxiety or both. You understand? Especially if you live in New York City, where everything is high pace, high volume all the time.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, but people think like, oh damn, I'm the only one that feels like this, you know, or like I'm the only one that's experiencing all of this. But really, like if we talk about it, it's like, yo, I feel the same way. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it is the new norm. But is it insanity? You know, like is it just like, you know, just how we're making society now? You know what I'm saying?
That's another lane I was about to take. Right. So, you know, because so many people can relate, and because it has become somewhat of a norm, how do we affect change so that people feel like it's not okay to stay in that space?
Right.
You know, you get comfortable in a space when you feel like everybody, this is just how it is. You get comfortable in that space. How do we change that aspect of it? How do we make people not comfortable and make them feel like they need to do better, be better, get better?
Right. So number one, when you normalize it and say, okay, you know, you're not the only one that's struggling with this. A lot of people are struggling with this. You know, then that's A. B, you know, listening to yourself. You know, like listening to yourself and saying, okay, like I'm not really feeling like myself today. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm feeling a little down, or like I'm consistently anxious about stuff all the time and I can't sleep. You know what I'm saying? So when you're feeling like that, it's like, okay, talk to somebody else about it. See if, you know, that's the norm. You know, like, is this okay for me to be feeling like that? And then you talk to enough people, you're gonna realize like, nah, this maybe you shouldn't be feeling like that all the time.
Or they may feel like it is normal.
They may feel like it is
people
normal.
and they like, I go through that too.
Oh, that's nothing.
I go through that too. I go through that too. So it kind of gives it that normal feel.
True.
I'm trying. Go ahead.
And then me as a professional, I'm definitely gonna say, you know, you want to consult a licensed mental health clinician, psychologist, psychiatrist, a therapist, whatever, just to make sure that you're getting a different set of eyes on the issue. And those are licensed, trained people, and they can tell you whether or not, okay, this this is within normal range, okay, nah, you know, like maybe you need to talk about these things a little bit more to a professional.
I like that. So the reason I brought you here is because first off, our people have a hard time with admitting that they're traumatized.
Yes.
Our people have a hard time admitting that they have certain things wrong with them, especially mental illness, because in our culture, it's like calling yourself weak.
Absolutely.
Absolutely not the case, but that's what we're taught, right? So now, how do we get our people to like not be okay with the fact that they have mental illness, but be okay with getting help with whatever it is that they're dealing with, so that they can be better and show up differently in the world?
Yeah, it's number one is acceptance. You understand? And you know, the more we have these conversations, is the more we can accept the fact that these things exist, you know, widespread. And culturally, in communities of color, it exists at a exacerbated level, you know, especially in this country, you understand? But, you know, our ancestors have been taught to deal with all this pain and struggle and trauma and just get back up and keep it moving, you know, without ever actually addressing what they've been through, you know? So now we're at a state, I want to call it a state of emergency.
I'm here. Yeah. Look. Catching my mother, my brothers, my sisters, and all the little ones that believe in me. This for my uncles, my auntie, my kids, and my girl. Heard it down, show me decency. Shut up my pops and fuck all of them niggas that only was there when they needed me. Delete my number, gon' fuck up this summer, and I'ma do that shit repeatedly. Gotta flex on them, blow checks on them. Ain't with none of that lame shit. I'm the illest nigga in the spot. Fuck you on who you came with. My name don't even got a check on it. Still they treat me like I'm famous. Coldest diamonds got baguettes on them. VVS's in a stainless. I was hopping out a bench truck. Niggas eyeing so the tents up. Niggas had to put a fence up. Think I'm lying, but we been up. 20,000 in my bank account.
When referring to right and wrong, I often hear people now say, you know, it's 2019. So do you believe that right and wrong changes with the times?
Right and wrong, to me, is subjective to the individual's desires. Right and wrong may not be the same thing for both of us.
Okay, explain.
So I've come to understand there's a lot of things that I find I'm using that may be wrong. I don't want to extend that information, but at the same time, everybody has that. But we have natural instincts and natural desires that may be perceived by other people, may it be by culture, may it be by race, you know, anything that makes you different may cause your perception of right or wrong to be different than the next person. There is no such thing as right or wrong.
That was going to be my next question, actually. Yeah. Is there a such thing as right and wrong?
No.
So there's no such thing as right and wrong?
No.
So if there's no such thing as right and wrong, could child molestation be right?
Ooh, man. Can child molestation be right? I frown upon it. That's not something I believe is a good thing. Me coming as a parent or even as a man that views intellectual relationships comfortable, you know, and I don't think we could really have a relationship with a child and be on at the same pace. Other countries, though, find that okay and it's legal.
I'm not asking about what other people.
But what I view? Oh no, I view that as completely something I frown upon. But that's my personal.
So when you frown upon it, it's not wrong. It's just
it's my personal. It's my personal disregard of it. Like, I don't want no parts of that. I don't like that.
Okay. So, do you find that you have children?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Do you have any daughters?
Four.
Okay.
So when you bring that up, I'm like, automatically envision one of them being in a situation where it's like, yeah.
Is it just frowned upon once it's your daughter?
Oh no, it's me going to react to it. You know,
why are you reacting though? It's not wrong.
It's wrong for me. It's wrong for me, but it's also not. No, it may not be wrong for you, but it's definitely wrong for me.
So at what point, where does the line get drawn? Because if it's not wrong for the person who's doing it, but it's wrong for you, then your response, does that become a wrong response?
It becomes a response with a consequence.
Okay.
So every action has a reaction.
Absolutely.
It may not be wrong to you, but it causes a reaction. It's a disrespecting. So if you dislike something and I knowingly do what you dislike, you would have a reaction towards it.
But I mean, everybody, you don't know everybody in the world, right? So we interact with people on a regular basis, every day, all day, especially if we live in New York. We in New York City, we come into contact with hundreds and hundreds of people a day. We don't know what they like or dislike. But we know that there's a foundation of understanding of what is right and what is wrong. But once you start saying there's no such thing as right and wrong, what do you base anything upon? What do you base your actions on?
On what you view, on your point of view. So there is a groundwork of what's right, what's taught to us from scratch. You're not supposed to do this.
But everything you're taught is not actually right and wrong.
Exactly.
I'm a spiritual being, right? So I deal very spiritually. I know I have grandkids. Yes, I do. I have grandkids. Watch your mouth. I have grandkids. And my grandkid, my youngest granddaughter, she's 2 years old. She knows spiritually, without us having to tell her something, you automatically, you're born with a connection to a higher power. Now, some people can disagree with that. You know, everybody has their own understanding. My understanding is that we are connected to a higher power, and that higher power has given us everything we need to understand what life is and is not.
Agreed.
As a child, you know, you have feelings when something is not right and when something is right. So if that is the case, then how can we get to adulthood and decide that there's no such thing as right and wrong?
Say, for example, that whole, as a child, you have these feelings. Depending on who is raising you.
I'm not talking about once people start
Influencing.
rewiring.
Yeah,
I'm talking about natural responses.
And you're asking what happens as an adult that makes us go back to that system?
No. Actually, children are better teachers. We can actually look at children and know they understand right from wrong. I'm saying that in this day and age, I get with peers and I am flabbergasted by the fact that I can sit with my granddaughter who is 2 and she knows right from wrong, and I can sit with my parents, they damn sure don't.
Yeah, that's also what they believe as what's right and wrong. For example, you came up with that energy, with that connection with the higher power, right? That's your connection. Someone else may view the same connection with the higher power, but have different reactions and different results. It's the difference in what people feel and view. That's the nothing's right and wrong, because what they feel is valid for them. Even if it's wrong against you, it's valid for them.
So now what you're saying is you're speaking in regard to individuality. I don't believe in individuality. I have a higher understanding. I understand that we are all connected, all of us. So what you do can actually affect somebody on the other side of the world.
How so?
How so? I'm gonna give you just an example. All right, boom. I decide I'm going on the train today.
Okay.
Right before I get on the train, I'm getting a bellyache.
Okay.
Right? I'm getting a bellyache, but I still decide to get on the train. Now I hurl on the train. The train has to stop. They have to wait for the ambulance to come and get me. Right? So now that train is stopped, not only did the 1,000 people that's on my train get stopped, but every train behind it is now stopped, right? So now I have affected people who are on their way to work. I may have stopped somebody from getting a job. I may have actually saved somebody's life, for somebody who was going to be on that corner that car was going to hit them on, right? I've stopped somebody who's trying to get to the airport to meet their family who's on the other side of the world, right? And now their family may be in the airport waiting for them stuck, and now is another ripple effect, because whoever they were supposed to be with or wherever they were supposed to be at is now affected. We are all connected. Every last one of us are connected, whether we know each other or not. So there's no such thing as individuality, which means we all need an understanding of what is a specific structure, a specific foundation in order for us to move this train the way it needs to be moved, like a well-oiled machine.
Would that really even happen? There wouldn't be any difference.
Absolutely, it can happen. But will it, as long as people don't believe that it's possible? No.
there is a right or wrong with that aspect. In the sense of your initial feelings to things. You know, when as a child, you know what feels good and what doesn't. You know what's going to hurt you and what will not. I mean, even though it's, you know, when you're early, you don't know, but as you 1 or 2 years old, you start noticing. These are things that I don't know. No matter what people tell me, these are things I'm not comfortable with. You'll cry, you let some people know exactly how you feel about them. Yeah, I agree with that. It makes sense.
You know they hate my black skin. Ride around the block in the drop top coupe, rolling past in the cop stop. You know they hate my black skin. Black rims, black Tim, yeah they did it again. You know they hate my black skin. They ain't never gonna make it, so you know they gon' do it again. You know they hate my black skin. Black rims, black Tim, yeah they did it again. You know they hate my black skin. Ride around the block in the drop top coupe, rolling past in the cop stop. You know they hate my black skin. Black rims, black Tim, yeah they did it again. You know they hate my black skin. They ain't never gonna make it, so you know they gon' do it again. You know they hate my black skin.
Let me ask you this. Could the possibility of the amount of black on black crime, could that be just because we are segregated and so certain people live around certain people, and since you are around these people constantly, then anytime there's high emotion, high activity, then obviously that's the people who are going to get the response?
Like I kind of thought that too, until I started like traveling and I started really seeing the reality of it. And I lived in Washington, D.C., and I lived in Baltimore, I lived in Texas, I lived in South Carolina, I lived in North Carolina, and I really seen that, yo, this is reality. We promoting it because if you look at the rap videos, you listen to the rap songs, you watch the movies, these white kids ain't getting plucked off on the streets like this. Like 10 little white kids get killed out here. You gonna know about it.
You're talking about white people being killed by black people or people of color.
No.
That's when it's publicized.
Yeah.
They're not publicizing white people killing white people.
Yeah.
That's my point. So my point is there's a narrative being put out there via news outlets, via, like you said, people who keep their camera on what's going on in their neighborhoods. Yes, if black people are in their neighborhoods, they're usually around black people. So if they're colliding with black people. So if they're having interaction, they're having it with someone of their own, right? So when you start seeing massive videos, massive news outlets that is pushing this agenda, it doesn't mean that it's not happening over there, and it doesn't mean that it's not happening equally or even more.
So I'm black. So I'm more concerned with black people. You know what I'm saying? I'm concerned with everybody, but I'm more concerned with trying to help my people.
You dealing with your community, which is understood. I'm dealing. That's why I'm having this conversation, because I feel the narrative that is being given, it wasn't our narrative to begin with. It was created for us, and we're promoting unfavorable narrative of ourselves. And so I think it's important to have this discussion.
I'd rather cry when it rains on me, so no one else can see my pain, so no one else can see the strain. I'm in a struggle to rain upon me. They made my struggle feel right, made me wonder what these drugs would feel like. But yet my struggle's real life, what I'm supposed to do when it rains upon me. I look at God up in the heavens. I ask him, what does he feel about me? I ask him, what's so surreal about me? Because it's only fake that I feel around me. Why do I gotta struggle?
So you don't believe that the act of being raw comes from being emotional?
No, that is an emotional thing. When I say emotional, obviously we're speaking on layman terms where people will understand it. We understand that that's still emotion, but when people look at it, that's what masculinity is. It's like having that physical gift. So that's how a lot of people see masculinity. It definitely is emotional. Both males and females are emotional creatures. I'm saying literally, we look at masculinity as the rah-rah, strong, which is an insecurity thing, because if you got a rah-rah, your masculinity is. And I say women, when you use something as beautiful as emotions to actually get your way and actually to infringe on the relationship and get a person to move the way you want them to move, that's when it becomes toxic. That's also insecure.
Can someone who lives in that space, toxic masculinity or toxic femininity,
No.
have a successful relationship?
No. Definitely not. You can't have it if you live in that space. I mean, we all visit that space, and then we have to rectify it. But we can't live in that space and have a healthy relationship. But a lot of people succeed in their relationships for years living in that toxicity. They do. Like, it's a guarantee.
And how you think that occurs? Like, how do you end up in long-term relationships when you are in that space?
Because it becomes the norm. We typically crave what's normal. So when we're doing anything outside the norm, we feel like we're uncomfortable. So they're comfortable in those relationships. So they start to believe like abuse is okay. They start to believe abuse is love. They start to connect things to abuse or being toxic, good things to those things. So therefore they keep coming back for more. They keep coming back for more. So it's generation. They pass it on to their kids. It keeps going. But in our society now, we got a lot of building to do, because it's easier to stay in long-term relationships that are toxic than it is to stay in healthy relationships. It is a lot easier.
Would you say that the reason why people are able to pull it off for so long these days and so often is because more people are living toxic lifestyles than they are healthy ones?
Definitely, it's socially acceptable. When something is socially acceptable, you continue to do it because you want acceptance from society. So until that's changed, until there's people that's willing to step up and go against the grain and change that, yeah, people are going to feel more comfortable in toxic relationships, and they're going to call it the norm. And anybody who's actually working for healthy relationships and working to being healthy environments, they are obviously going to be sticklers. They're not going to be normal. There's going to be a bunch of negative things attached to their name.
Absolutely. I mean, I deal with that. I know you deal with that. Definitely. Because we're very stern in our belief systems. Do you feel that artists have a responsibility to put a certain conversation out there, or do you think that, to each his own?
I think the only responsibility artists have is to be honest with themselves. It sounds a lot simpler than it is, but if you get to the core of what your truth is, then music and life becomes a far more beautiful place, because you have sincere expressions coming from various people. Beyond that, it becomes artificial in any sort of way. Once you tell a person you have a responsibility to do what I think you should be doing as an artist, even if what I'm telling you to do is productive, it's artificial if that's not your truth.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree 100%. So, that I'm happy that you expressed it in that way. Like, that's so clear, clean, cut, and dry. I think everything comes from a place of self-awareness, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't understand self, then you move differently out in the world.
Absolutely.
You just present differently out in the world. And once you do know who you are, there's just certain things that you won't allow yourself to do, say, act as, right? Was there anyone in your career who kind of kept you on a straight and narrow? I could be wrong, but I don't remember y'all being a part of too much scandalous stuff. Like, pretty clean.
I'll put it like this. Our best demonstration at staying out of the way of things that were counterproductive was our season with what was G&R production. That was Griffin and Riley production. The reality is that the environment that we came up in, we were literally shaped by hardened criminals. Bottom line. Gene was one himself, but his directive to the artist was, let's keep it clean. When the company split, because it did, there was that same sort of guidance wasn't there, and some of those things that were native to who we were, that wasn't necessarily as productive, didn't always express itself in music, but it did express itself in how we moved through the industry.
Okay.
At the time, you don't realize that you're building and destroying at the same time. But it was second nature to us. If we are not being productively creative, who we were.
It's so important that you said that. So important.
And I'm only laying that out because I don't want to be dishonest based on how the music aspect of it looked.
Throughout my journey in music, I recognized that me being self-aware did become a deciding factor in some of the things not going the way they were supposed to go in regard to the music industry. Do you feel that some of the things that you were willing to do early on provided a lane for you guys to make it?
Things that I'm referring to was, without question, counterproductive shit. None of us are thinking along the lines of, hold up, man, you know what? This shit might fuck up our situation.
Yeah, you ain't thinking of the ripple.
You ain't thinking of the ripple. None of it is crossing your mind. You just like, fuck that, let's get it. Me as an individual, there are certain things that was very beneficial based on my upbringing, coming up in a household with a mother like I had, absolute G. There was things that I encountered business-wise that I would have been cat food for if I wasn't me. Sometimes knowing this don't feel right, this don't sound right, but I don't want to miss out. When you're tough enough, you're willing to put that shit on the line. Like, nah, I don't
Absolutely,
give a fuck.
absolutely.
I'm not having that. Nah. And I've been in those situations numerous times.
Those were the situations I was confronted with.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm a female, so the industry deal with me different.
Yeah.
And some of the I just wasn't with it.
Yeah.
I wasn't with the shits, and I was willing to walk away from some large bags because of it.
Yeah, and you know, and I think for me, some of the situations that were saving graces, if you will, is that temperament was married with a hot hand. The only distinguishing difference is that now the person that's saying, nah, I ain't having that shit, when they move, their portion goes with them. But the fortitude that it takes to look the possibility of success dead in the eye and say, man, fuck you. The shit takes a lot. All compromising, in my observation of it, does is teach you how to do it more and become less of yourself. And that's the very thing that most people do as they get away further and further from their divine design, from kids all the way on.
I absolutely agree with that.